Family, I want you to hear me when I say this. Your past does not cancel your future. So many of us carry this heavy weight, convinced that because of what we've been through, because of the choices we made, because of the doors we walked through that we had no business opening, somehow God has changed his mind about us. But let me remind you, God is not a man that he should lie, nor does he operate like people do. People will count you out. They'll remind you of your failures. They'll put labels on you that stick longer than the season they came from. But God looks at those same failures and sees possibility. He looks at the brokenness and says, that's the vessel I can use. You may think your mistakes disqualify you, but in the kingdom, it's often your mistakes that qualify you. Think about it, the very things you've been ashamed of, the tears you cried in secret, the moments you thought no one saw, they became the soil where strength, resilience, and faith were planted. Your testimony isn't born in perfection, it's birthed in redemption. And redemption has a way of rewriting the narrative of your life. Some of you have been holding back from stepping into God's plan because you keep replaying the old script. You keep hearing the voice that says, you messed up too badly. You should have known better. You're too broken to be used. But that voice doesn't come from heaven. God isn't rehearsing your past. He's revealing your future. He already factored in every wrong turn, every delay, every detour. Nothing you've done has the power to erase what he spoke over your life. I need you to stop negotiating with the shame of yesterday. Stop entertaining the idea that you're too far gone. God doesn't throw away broken pieces. He gathers them, he restores them, and he crafts them into something far more beautiful than before. If you've ever dropped a glass and watched it shatter, you know how impossible it seems to put it back together. But God isn't putting you back the same way you were. He's making something new. The cracks, the scars, the evidence of where you've been, they don't make you weaker. They make you authentic. They make your life a living, breathing example of his grace. Your past doesn't cancel your future. In fact, it confirms it. The enemy wouldn't have fought you so hard if there wasn't something powerful on the inside of you. The storms weren't sent to bury you. They were sent to break open the soil so new life could spring forth. You are still here. And if you're still here, that means there is still purpose left in you. Don't you dare mistake survival for the end of the story. Survival is proof that destiny is still calling your name. I know what it feels like to want to hide the chapters of your life that don't look pretty. I know what it feels like to sit in a room and wonder if people can see your shame, your mistakes, your struggles written all over you. But can I tell you something? The very parts of your story you've been hiding are the ones that will set someone else free. Someone is waiting to hear how you got through it, how you stood back up, how you kept believing even when everything told you not to. Your scars will speak louder than your silence ever could. That's why the enemy tries to keep you stuck in the past. Because if you ever realize that your past is the launching pad for your purpose, you'll step into a power he can't stop. You'll walk with boldness, knowing that the worst thing you went through didn't destroy you. It developed you. That heartbreak taught you how to love deeper. That betrayal taught you how to discern better. That failure taught you how to rise again. Every piece of your past is a building block for your future. So tonight, I want you to make a decision to stop rehearsing what went wrong and start declaring what's still possible. A decision to stop disqualifying yourself and start agreeing with what God already spoke over you. You are not too broken. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. The past was a chapter, not the conclusion. God's plan for your life is still intact. And if you dare to believe it, your best days are not behind you. They are ahead of you. Family, have you ever noticed that the seasons of your life where you've been the most uncomfortable were often the very seasons that led to your greatest growth? We don't like discomfort. We try to escape it, numb it, or avoid it at all costs. But discomfort has a way of showing up right before breakthrough. Sometimes the unsettling you feel isn't failure, it's direction. God will let you sit in a space that doesn't fit anymore. Not because he's punishing you, but because he's trying to stretch you towards something greater. It's like wearing shoes that used to be your size. They were comfortable once, they served their purpose, but now they squeeze your feet, leaving you aching with every step. You can't walk into new territory wearing shoes that don't fit. The pain is a signal it's time for something bigger, something that matches where you're headed, not where you've been. That's what discomfort does. It alerts you that the season has shifted, that you can't stay where you are and still expect to step into God's best for your life. I know what it feels like to cry out, God, why does this feel so heavy? Why am I not at peace? Why does everything around me seem unsettled? And the whisper that comes back is, because I'm moving you. Sometimes God disrupts your comfort to redirect your calling. He doesn't want you to settle in places that were meant to be temporary. The job, the relationship, the environment, it may have been right for a season, but if it's producing more restlessness than joy, that might be God nudging you into alignment with his plan. We mistake discomfort for rejection, but often it's divine redirection. That door closed because you weren't supposed to build your future there. That friendship ended because it couldn't carry the weight of where you're going. That opportunity dried up not because you weren't good enough, but because God's vision for your life is bigger than what you were trying to hold on to. And if we're honest, sometimes we would never move unless life got uncomfortable. We cling to what's familiar, even when it no longer serves us. And God loves us too much to let us shrink in spaces we've outgrown. You see, comfort zones are dangerous because they feel safe, but they rarely produce growth. You don't learn faith in comfort zones. You don't learn perseverance in comfort zones. You don't discover who you truly are when everything is easy and predictable. It's in the stretching, the pressing, the nights you cry yourself to sleep, the mornings you wake up with questions but still choose to believe. That's where destiny is formed. Discomfort becomes the compass that pushes you into the unknown, and the unknown is often where God's greatest work is revealed. I need you to shift how you see that restlessness in your soul. It's not a sign of failure. It's an invitation to move. That stirring you feel, that sense that something has to change, that's God's way of preparing you for transition. He's saying, there's more for you than this. Don't settle here. And even though stepping into the unknown feels risky, staying stuck in what's comfortable will cost you more in the long run. Growth demands that you step out even if your knees are shaking. Think about the caterpillar. It spends its life crawling on the ground until something in its DNA says, it's time. And when that shift happens, the caterpillar is pushed into a cocoon. That cocoon is uncomfortable. It's tight. It's dark, but it's necessary because in that discomfort, transformation is happening. And when the time is right, the very thing that once confined it becomes the place it pushes against to strengthen its wings. Without the pressure, the butterfly would never fly. Your discomfort is not your end. It's the process of your becoming. So instead of asking, why me, Lord, start asking, what are you showing me in this season? Instead of fighting the restlessness, lean into it. Maybe God is birthing a new dream in you. Maybe he's calling you to leave behind something that no longer serves your growth. Maybe he's stirring courage inside you to step into rooms you once thought you didn't belong in. Discomfort is often the language of destiny. Don't despise the season that feels uneasy. Don't run from the stretching. Because if you can endure the discomfort with faith, you'll look back one day and realize that what you thought was breaking you was actually guiding you. God will use the very thing that unsettled you to set you on the path toward his plan. Family, before you can ever fully step into what God has called you to do, you have to settle in your spirit who he has called you to be. Too many of us are chasing assignments without first embracing identity. We're running after titles, opportunities, platforms, and positions, thinking those things will validate us when the truth is they were never meant to define us. Identity comes before destiny, and if you don't know who you are, you'll lose yourself trying to do what you were never designed to carry. We live in a world that constantly tells us we're not enough, not successful enough, not pretty enough, not spiritual enough, not talented enough. And if we're not careful, we'll start living life trying to prove our worth to people who never had the power to define us in the first place. That's why knowing your identity in God is so critical, because when you know who you are, you stop performing for acceptance and start living from assurance. You stop begging for validation and start walking in purpose. Some of us have confused the assignment with the identity. We think, I'm a mother, I'm a leader, I'm a student, I'm a professional. And while those things are true, they're not the foundation of who you are. Those are roles you play, but your identity is deeper than that. Your identity is rooted in the truth that you are chosen, you are loved, you are created with intentionality. And when you begin to see yourself the way God sees you, you'll stop chasing temporary labels to feel permanent belonging. That's why some of us get so exhausted. We're striving to prove something that's already been established. You don't have to work for God's approval. You already have it. You don't have to earn his love. He gave it freely. You don't have to be perfect to be chosen. You were chosen before you were even formed. And when you rest in that identity, the pressure to perform lifts, and the freedom to walk in destiny becomes real. But here's the challenge. If you don't know who you are, you'll end up letting other people tell you who to be. You'll shrink when you should be standing tall. You'll settle when you should be soaring. You'll let their opinions dictate your direction instead of anchoring yourself in God's truth. Identity is the anchor that keeps you steady when the waves of life try to knock you off course. If you don't have that anchor, every storm will convince you that you're not enough. The enemy knows that if he can get you to doubt your identity, he can derail your destiny. That's why he whispers lies like, you're unworthy, you're too broken, you don't have what it takes. He's not after your past, he's after your perspective. Because if you see yourself as defeated, you'll never have the courage to step into victory. If you believe you're unqualified, you'll never walk into the spaces God has already assigned to you. But when you know who you are, you can stand in front of closed doors and still declare, I am chosen. You can face rejection and still believe, I am loved. You can walk through failure and still proclaim, I am called. Identity fuels resilience. When you know who you are, setbacks don't stop you, they shape you. Criticism doesn't break you, it refines you. Delay doesn't discourage you, it deepens your trust, because you're no longer tied to outcomes to prove your worth. You already know your worth, and from that place, you pursue your calling with confidence. Maybe that's why God often takes us through seasons where he strips away the things we once leaned on for identity. The job ends, the relationship changes, the role shifts, and suddenly you're asking, who am I without all of this? That's when he whispers, you are mine, you are still enough. You are still called. He allows those moments not to diminish you, but to remind you that your identity is not in what you do. It's in who you belong to. So tonight, I want to challenge you to stop chasing assignments while ignoring identity. Before you try to figure out what your next step is, anchor yourself in this truth. You are chosen, you are loved, and you are equipped. When you walk in that identity, the assignment will unfold naturally. You won't have to force it. You won't have to beg for it. You won't have to compromise for it. You'll simply step into it because your being has aligned with your doing. Family, there are doors in your life that won't swing open until you decide to take that first step of obedience. We often pray for opportunities, for blessings, for clarity, And we wait for God to show us the whole picture before we move. But faith doesn't work like that. God rarely hands us the blueprint. He gives us one instruction at a time. And the truth is, obedience unlocks opportunities that hesitation will never see. So many of us are waiting for certainty, but God is asking for trust. We want to know how it will end before we begin. But God says, take the step, and I'll meet you there. Sometimes we miss the miracles because we're too busy trying to negotiate with God. We want confirmation, signs, guarantees. But what he's looking for is our willingness to say yes, even when the path looks unclear. Because that yes, that single act of obedience has the power to shift the entire trajectory of our lives. Think about how often we pray for breakthrough, but breakthrough is waiting on us to move. We want God to part the waters, but sometimes he's waiting for us to step into them first. The Red Sea didn't move until Moses lifted his staff. The walls of Jericho didn't fall until the people marched. The oil in the widow's jar didn't multiply until she poured. Every miracle was preceded by an act of obedience. And it's the same for you. Your next miracle is tied to your next yes. Obedience is rarely convenient. It will often pull you out of your comfort zone and into places where you feel unqualified. But that's the beauty of it. God doesn't ask for obedience because he needs our ability. He asks for it because he wants our availability. When you make yourself available to him, he fills in the gaps with his power. And suddenly, what looked impossible becomes possible, not because of your strength, but because of his. I know it's hard to say yes when you don't have all the answers. I know it feels risky to walk away from the familiar into something uncertain. But obedience isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting the one who does. When you obey, you're declaring with your actions, God, I trust you more than I trust myself. I trust your vision more than my fear. I trust your plan more than my comfort. That kind of trust opens doors that no man can shut. Some of us are waiting for God to move in areas where he's already given us an instruction. He told you to start the business, but you're waiting until you have enough money saved. He told you to forgive, but you're waiting until the other person apologizes. He told you to write the book, apply for the job, launch the ministry, shift your circle, but you're waiting for the perfect time. Can I tell you something? There will never be a perfect time. Obedience makes the time perfect. When you delay obedience, you delay destiny. Every moment you spend second guessing is a moment you could have been stepping into the very thing you've been praying for. Don't let fear disguise itself as wisdom. Don't let hesitation keep you standing in front of doors that were designed to open. If God said move, move. If God said forgive, forgive. If God said release it, release it. Because on the other side of that obedience is opportunity you can't even imagine. And let's be clear, obedience isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it looks like letting go of something you really wanted. Sometimes it looks like walking away from relationships that no longer align with where God is taking you. Sometimes it looks like serving quietly in the background when you'd rather be in the spotlight. But every small act of obedience is a seed. And when you sow those seeds in faith, the harvest will always come. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step. That step may look small, but it carries the weight of destiny. That step may feel insignificant, but it carries the authority of heaven. And when you walk in obedience, doors will open that you could never have forced open on your own. Favor will find you. Opportunities will chase you down. Connections will come that you couldn't have orchestrated. That's the power of obedience. It aligns you with heaven's timing. So if you've been wrestling with a decision, waiting for the right moment, waiting for everything to make sense, I want to encourage you tonight. Take the step. Say yes. Do it afraid if you have to, but do it. Because obedience is the key that unlocks the doors you've been praying to walk through. Family, sometimes we talk about stepping into God's plan as if it's all about open doors, big assignments, and powerful opportunities. But let me tell you, you can't fully walk into what God has for you if you're still bleeding from wounds you've never let him heal. Healing is not an interruption to your destiny. It's a part of it. It's the preparation that makes sure when you arrive where God is sending you, you can actually stay there without crumbling under the weight of old pain. So many of us are carrying silent injuries. We smile, we serve, we show up. But deep down, we're limping. We've built walls around our hearts because of betrayal. We've silenced our voice because of rejection. We've buried our joy under the rubble of disappointments. And we think as long as we keep moving, the pain won't matter. But the truth is, unhealed wounds always resurface. You can ignore them for a while, but they'll show up in your relationships, in your decisions, in your self-worth, and even in how you see God. You cannot step boldly into your future while dragging the chains of your past. God doesn't just want to use you. He wants to heal you. He wants to go into the hidden places, the secret hurts, the parts of you you've learned to cover up, because the version of you he created to fulfill his plan is not the broken, bound version. It's the whole, healed, restored version. And until you surrender those wounds, you'll always feel like something is missing, even when doors start opening. I know healing is hard. It forces you to face the very things you've been running from. It asks you to dig into memories you'd rather forget. It requires honesty, and honesty can be painful. But family, healing doesn't mean revisiting the past to stay there. It means revisiting it so you can release it. God doesn't bring things to the surface to shame you. He brings them up to free you. That scar you've been hiding is not your disqualification. It's proof that you survived. And if you survived, then God has already marked you for greater. Some of us think healing is weakness. We think being strong means pretending we're fine. But true strength is saying, I need God to touch this place in me. I need him to mend what's been broken. Because when you let him heal you, the bitterness turns into wisdom. The heartbreak turns into compassion, and the shame turns into testimony. Healing transforms what was meant to destroy you into the very thing that empowers you to walk in purpose. I need you to understand this healing is not selfish. Sometimes we feel guilty for focusing on our own restoration, like taking the time to deal with our wounds is somehow neglecting everything else. But hear me, when you heal, everyone connected to you benefits. Your children benefit from a whole version of you. Your relationships benefit from a healed heart. Your calling benefits from a clear spirit. Healing is not just for you. It's for generations coming after you. Don't be afraid if your healing takes time. Some wounds close quickly. Others take longer to mend. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. Healing is a process, but every step forward matters. Every tear you cry in prayer, every boundary you set to protect your peace, every moment you choose forgiveness over bitterness, that's progress. Don't rush the process and don't despise it. God heals layer by layer, piece by piece, until the day you can look back and see how far he's brought you. And let me tell you this, healing isn't just about what you've been through. It's also about preparing you for where you're going. You can't pour into others if your own cup is cracked. You can't step into new relationships if you're still carrying the residue of old ones. You can't build a new future if you're still haunted by the voices of your past. Healing ensures that when God places the blessing in your hands, you're able to hold it without fear, without sabotage, without retreating into old patterns. Maybe tonight you feel the weight of wounds you've been carrying for years. Maybe you've mastered the art of pretending you're fine, but deep down, you know you're not. Can I remind you, you don't have to carry it alone. God is the healer. He is close to the brokenhearted. He binds up the wounds of the crushed in spirit, and he's not intimidated by your pain. He doesn't look at your scars and turn away. He looks at them and says, that's exactly where I want to show my glory. Don't run from healing. Don't push it to the side like it's optional. If you want to step fully into God's plan, you have to let him mend what's been torn. Because when you're healed, you're free. Free to love again, free to trust again, free to believe again, free to step into destiny without the weight of what once was. Family, I need you to understand something. Your yes to God is bigger than you. When you say yes, you're not just making a decision for your own life, you're setting in motion a ripple that will touch generations. We often think our obedience, our faith, our choices are only about us, but heaven doesn't see it that way. Heaven sees legacy. Heaven sees the children, the grandchildren, the people you may never meet who will be impacted because you decided to surrender your will to God's plan. There are battles you're fighting right now that your children will never have to fight simply because you said yes. There are cycles that will break off your bloodline, chains that will shatter, curses that will end. Not because you had all the answers, but because you were willing to trust God with your future. Your yes has the power to rewrite history. What ran through your family may run into you, but it doesn't have to run past you. You can be the one that changes the story. That's why the enemy works so hard to make you doubt your yes. He wants you to believe it doesn't matter if you quit, if you shrink back, if you compromise. But the truth is your yes is loaded with destiny. Every time you choose obedience over convenience, faith over fear, surrender over control, you're planting seeds for someone else to harvest. You may not see the full picture now, but heaven is keeping record of every yes. I know sometimes saying yes feels costly. It means letting go of things you thought you needed. It means walking away from people you love. It means enduring seasons where it looks like nothing is happening, but that sacrifice is never wasted. The very thing that feels like a loss in your now becomes an inheritance for someone else's later. What you're building in faith today will become the foundation someone else stands on tomorrow. Think about it. Many of us are standing on the prayers and sacrifices of people who came before us. A grandmother who prayed when nobody else believed. A father who worked hard so you could have opportunities he never had. A mother who endured storms but still clung to her faith. Their yes made room for you. And now God is calling you to be that for someone else. To make choices today that echo into eternity. Your yes is not just about the big moments either. Sometimes it's in the small daily decisions. Saying yes to healing when it's easier to stay bitter. Saying yes to forgiveness when you'd rather hold a grudge. Saying yes to discipline when your flesh wants comfort. Every yes, no matter how small, becomes a piece of the puzzle God is using to paint a bigger picture. And when you look back, you'll see how those small acts of obedience connected to doors opening, chains breaking, and lives changing. Don't underestimate the power of your yes. It might look insignificant to you, but to someone else, it will be life-changing. The words you speak in faith could be the encouragement that keeps another person from giving up. The boundaries you set could be the example your children follow. The prayers you pray in private could be the very thing that shifts the atmosphere in your home. Your yes has weight, and that weight is eternal. And let me tell you this, your yes won't just bless the ones connected to you. It will also come back and bless you. Because when you align with God's plan, you position yourself for favor, for peace, for fulfillment you could never manufacture on your own. The reward of obedience is not just in what God gives you, but in who you become through the process. You become a living testimony that surrender works, that faith works, that trusting God works. So if you're standing at a crossroads, wrestling with fear, wondering if your yes is worth it, let me remind you it is. It's worth it for the ones watching you. It's worth it for the ones coming after you. It's worth it for the legacy you're building. Don't let fear rob you of the impact your obedience carries. Don't let doubt silence the echo your yes was designed to leave in the earth.